The usual opposite side of yesterday's video, but this time with a twist of, for this list I will actually include players who were somewhat of a similar level, and that's cause, well, without them this list will basically be empty, because as I now have come to find out, Regens being several levels better than their OGs is pretty rare, if not at the highest level, near impossible. Man, maybe we are getting soft. 7 next versions of footballers who were better than the original. Let's roll on. Number 7, CR7 is better than DB7. Real Madrid legend, Real Madrid legend. Manchester United legend, Manchester United legend. An icon that transcended the sport and became a household name all over the world. An icon that transcended the sport and became a household name all over the world. The first American big name signing from the modern era. The first Saudi big name signing from the modern era. A man who made the number 7 a global discussion. A man who made the number 7 a part of his own name. But you see, the reason why this is at the bottom of this list despite all those things I just said isn't just because of the number 7 CL7 DB7 thing, but instead it's because this is probably the only entry on this list where the two players in question aren't similar at all. Beck's primary, if not sole purpose, was to get a delivery in as early as possible, with his crosses usually coming from the edge of the box out wide, while Cristiano liked to isolate a fullback, get past him and, more often than not, take it to the byline before delivering it in. Beck's moved closer to the centre as he began to age, Ronnie moved closer to goal as he began to age. They were very different in that regard. So instead, how I judge these guys is their levels of success when given the same job. On the pitch, that is. I don't give a shit about the celebrity thing. And as amazing as Bex was for both Real and United, and as much as it may hurt me to say, Ronnie was just simply that much better. Number 6, Roy Keane is better than Brian Robson. Another all-United entry, another pair of pristine players with parallel paths in their playing careers, and therefore, another spiritual regen that's pretty easy to compare. Though I think it's fair to say Robbo and Kino were also a lot more similar in their style of play than Bex and CR7 were. Both these guys were midfield stalwarts for United, both these guys captained United, both started off as all-action energetic box-to-box midfielders, who later transitioned into a sitting role due to both age and injuries. And while a young Robbo was certainly better going forward, at times even being the main goal-getter of mainly a subpar United team he played for, Roy Keane's leadership, consistency, partly because of Robbo's injuries, so please don't think I'm blaming him, playmaking, success levels has taken him 1 or 2 places above Brian Robson. And it's ironic because you see all those attributes I just outlined for Kino, Robbo also excels in pretty much all of them, but just not as strongly as Roy Keane, because when it comes to the greatest United captains of all time, Kino for me is the undisputed number 1. Number 5, Harry Kane is better than Alan Shearer. They were both England strikers who spent the majority of their careers with their underdog hometown club. They are both the all-time top scorers for their underdog hometown club. Yet one fuck all with the underdog hometown club, with, as of recording, 1 league title each away from the underdog hometown club. But even then, this isn't because Harry Kane has a few more years left and could potentially win more. I just think he's already surpassed Big Al in almost every way. Harry is the all-time top scorer for his country, has over 100 caps and is still going. Harry had more of a positive impact on Tottenham on the pitch than Shearer did for Newcastle. Don't forget, Shearer joined the team who were closest to winning a league title than they ever were, but after his signing just progressively got worse from there, while Harry was very much part of the Spurs side who were closest to the title themselves, while also getting them to a UCL final. Let's not forget, Harry is more complete than Alan Shearer ever was, and yes, you should know by now, and will too also hear later on, that I put nowhere near the emphasis others put on this, but it still does matter at least a tad. And also, again, please don't think I'm blaming Shearer, as this is partly due to his injuries, but facts are, Harry Kane has been a lot more consistent throughout his career, and for a bonus, let's be real, he would have broken the all-time EPL record had he stayed on. It's just easier to do that nowadays. Number 4, Sergio Busquets is better than Pep Guardiola. Yep, this was a thing. And yep, I'm talking about this Pep. He used to be a player, kids. And also, get this, he used to have hair. And you know what's even more shocking than that? He used to actually be known for having a calm presence on the pitch. Never the greatest athlete, Pep Guardiola was a footballer who always relied on his brains when playing the game. Usually in the deepest midfield slot for both Barca and Spain, Pep was a master in defensive positioning, dictating play, resisting press, making difficult things look pretty simple, and in turn, keeping the game simple as much as he can. Does that remind you of someone? Yep, though no doubt, there's still a noticeable gap here. Because you see, partly due to the fact that Busquets basically played in upgraded versions of the Spain and Barca side Pep played for, Busquets was very much an upgraded version of Pep. Even more calm, made even less mistakes, saw even more success, gave a lot less fouls away, and was also a significantly bigger wanker too, but we're not here to talk about that. Both these guys were underrated, though Pep perhaps a little more, but both these guys were brilliant, though Busquets perhaps a little more. Number 3, Erling Haaland is better than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think I'm right in saying that this is the most controversial take on this video. Actually, you know what, the next one might be. Stay tuned. Either way, I don't get why. Erling Haaland more or less is basically an evolved Ibrahimovic. And I'm almost saying that literally, because if you do a side-by-side study of these Scandinavian strikers, both I'd say exceptional and supreme in skill/capacity and startling and salient in size/stature, what do you gather? Well, they're both giant frontmen with logic-defying athleticism who also have ponytails. Looks great. The difference? Haaland wins in pretty much every aspect in terms of physicality. He's quicker, stronger and better in the air than Ibrahimovic ever was. You know it's true, bro. So what's he actually missing? Apart from taekwondo kicks. Physically? Nothing. Now, for the hippies saying, well, Zlatan was the better footballer. Well, first of all, shut up, that means nothing. And secondly, shut the fuck up, that means fucking nothing. But you know what, let's pretend it does. And on that, my explanation is this. Ibrahimovic moved around a lot in his career, and depending on where he was at in terms of both club and position on the pitch, he had more opportunities to showcase other aspects of his game outside goals, like his creative chops. Why? Because that was his job at certain times. Erling Haaland, apart from the times where he'd drift out wide to encourage the runners from midfield when he was at Dortmund, never needed to showcase any such quality. The job he's been assigned thus far by pretty much all of his coaches in pretty much the entirety of his career strictly involves putting the ball in the back of the net. And dare I say, he so far has done that job better than any job Zlatan Ibrahimovic was given in his career, be it goal scoring or playing as a support forward. And for the 10,000th time, that's how you really judge a player. How well they do the job they're given. Not how much they're involved in the game or how many fucking Rabonas they pulled off. We're not playing a five-a-side in Westway, we're not doing a one-on-one thing in the cages of Peckham. Skills and source in real football in terms of value usually rank between sod all, fuck all, and an opinion by Jamie Carragher. I'd say somewhere between the first two. And that is partly why when Fabio Capello came across Ibrahimovic at Juventus, he literally made him do extra training to get rid of the other bullshit and simply focus on his job, which at the time was purely goal scoring. So essentially, Capello was trying to make Ibrahimovic more like Haaland. Why? Because he was trying to make him better. And that, my friends, is why it's pretty clear to me that out of these guys, who really is better. Personally, I prefer Zlatan though. Number 2, N'Golo Kante is better than Claude Makelele. As mad as it may sound, the man who had a position named after him had already seen an improved version of him barely 5 years after his retirement. And while this is mostly due to how amazing N'Golo Kante is, and don't worry, we'll get to that, it is also partly because of the fact that, well, Claude Makelele has been slightly overrated since his retirement. And in case you're thinking of giving the default rebuttal of, how can he be overrated if he literally had a position named after him? Well, it's your lucky day, because that's what I aim to do first. Clear the position named after him topic. Check this. Massively undervalued by clubs during his career, slightly overrated by fans post his career. Well, overrated by Premier League fans from a certain era. Because you see, Claude Makelele's biggest claim to fame in these ends is the fact that the CDM position is often known as the Makelele role. Well, on that, apologies if I'm being some sort of a cynic here, but I genuinely feel Jose Mourinho deserves more credit for that than Makelele himself. After all, it was Mourinho who was the first manager to achieve big success in the Premier League outside the traditional 4-4-2 with the two box-to-box midfielders like United and Arsenal had back in the day. Jose played a 4-3-3 with one strict anchor, who happened to be Claude Makelele, which is why it became known as the Makelele role. And that is my point. It became known as the Makelele role, not because players like Makelele weren't around in England before him, but the role wasn't around before his manager. Huge difference. And don't get me wrong, the man was brilliant playing that role. Hell, he was signed by Mourinho because of how vital he was to Real Madrid's success in the previous 3 years, and then went on to achieve historic success with Chelsea in the subsequent 4 years. But just think about it this way. Had the tactics of playing a 4-3-3 or a 4-5-1 became fully established in England before 2004-ish, meaning it was used by the United and Arsenal teams of around that time, do you really think the likes of Brian Robson, Roy Keane wouldn't have done a similar if not better job than Makelele? Or in the case of Arsenal, the likes of Gilberto Silva and Manu Petit, the latter of whom, by the way, brings me to this, and well, once again, this is something else a lot of people forget, but A, Makelele was neither a part of France's World Cup winning squad of 98 or the Euro winning squad of 2000, despite being available for both. He was simply deemed not good enough compared to players like Petit. And B, we not only saw a handful of players as good as Makelele in that role during his day, but we have since then basically seen someone who's basically an improved version of him in basically every way, in the cutie that is N'Golo Kante. Again, think about it. And think about that in terms of both individual ability and collective success. Because as far as the former goes, while Kante probably didn't read the game as well as Makelele, he was still super intelligent, on top of having a better engine, passing range, and offering a lot more going forward. And as far as the latter goes, while they both won everything with Chelsea and Makelele did the same with Real Madrid, the fact that N'Golo Kante was the primary reason why Leicester City won a Premier League title, along with the fact that he also found massive success with the national team too, that ends any debate for me. Number 1, Lionel Messi is better than Diego Maradona. So obvious, you all knew it was coming. So obvious, it's almost anticlimactic. But at the end of the day, it's as close to an objectively right answer you'll get for this topic. Because you see, as people who weren't either watching football or weren't even born in the 80s, I don't think we fully appreciate what happened here. Like, can you imagine telling an Argentinian fan on the 23rd of June 1986, that's one day after the goal of the century in case you didn't know, that the genius you saw at work there, in 20 to 30 years time, you'll see a player almost identical to him, but better than him in almost every way. That's actually fucking mad. Like, seriously, imagine you're a Messi fanboy now and I'm telling you that in 20 to 30 years time, you'll see a player similar to Messi but better than him in every way. That's what basically happened for those guys. I mean, I'm sure some of them will tell you that they prefer El Diego, but think about it properly. Like, listen, I'll be the first one to tell you that straight up, Maradona was easily the superior playmaker and was miles better in influencing games from deep. But aside from that, Leo could dribble as well as El Diego did, if not better. Leo was a significantly better goal scorer than El Diego. He was also fitter, better in the air when using his head, and what for me simply puts an end to any doubts I may have had, Leo was able to turn in displays at that level for a prolonged period of time. So in essence, he was what Maradona could have been had the man not derailed. And this is what I mean. Brother, this shit is usually just hypothetical. Like, ooh, what if George Best had fixed up? What if CR7 didn't have bad knees? What if R9 didn't have bad knees? What if Ronaldinho was more dedicated, and etc. But the fact that we in a way saw in real time what Maradona could have been had he kept his head straight in his spiritual rebirth that is Lionel Messi, that is simply stuff of fairy tale. And that, no doubt, makes Lionel Messi the prime example of a regen who was an improvement from the golden past. And that is that. Agree or disagree? Beats indifference. So what do you think of this list? Are there any other regions that are better than the OG whom I've missed out? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, keep rolling.